Hello there. Welcome to an In Search of Darkness watch party for Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. I am Andrew Dalton, and I am joined by our amazing co-producer, Carla Hampton, the Trivia Queen. Welcome, Carla.
Hello. I'm excited to be here on screen with you guys today.
And we've got our wonderful community joining us on Discord and on Facebook and on Twitch as well. So I think we're pretty much everywhere for everybody at the moment. So that's great. Okay, guys, so we're going to be queuing up Nightmare on Elm Street 3, literally just as the movie begins, as the New Line logo starts to fade in. So let's give you just a couple of seconds to get all that queued up, if anyone needs to. So Carla, can you tell us a little bit why this is your favorite Nightmare movie, or is it actually one of your favorite movies as well?
It's both. It's one of my favorite Nightmare and favorite films. This movie, for me, it just brought together everything that was great about the first film, and it really incorporated the comedy and some wonderful special effects and things that were going on in the late 80s. Also, for me, I have a personal connection to the whole Nightmare series, because when I was younger, I experienced severe night terrors as a child. And I became a lucid dreamer. So I learned how to control my dreams. And I researched everything about dreams, everything about sleep. So for me, I had a connection with Kirsten, particularly in this movie, with her gift. And to see it on screen and to see the story and to see, you know, these kids coming together to fight Freddy, for me, it was like, wow, you know, someone kind of took my experience and put it up there on screen. So.
Okay. All right. Well, let's hope everyone's got the movie queued up. And if you're ready, we'll go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Press play. Here we go. We see the New Line logo fading in. Also, New Line, known as the house that Freddy built, they call it.
Yes.
In the industry. Here we go.
Now, they attribute this quote to Edgar Allan Poe, but it's not 100% confirmed that that's from him. But
either way, it's still great.
And I think, you know, a lot of us wasn't sure what to expect after the second Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, I think there's almost a parallel to a lot of notable American TV shows in that they take till the third season before they hit their stride a lot of the time. And I think I think that was very much the case. The second season of a TV show can quite often be awkward. And I think the second Nightmare on Elm Street movie was a great movie, but it had its issues. I don't think it knew what it wanted to be.
Right, exactly. And, you know,
sorry, Larry Fishburne.
Yes, Larry Fishburne. And, this is Chuck Russell's first directorial debut for his film. They wanted $20 million. The studio was like, oh, that's funny. We'll give you 4.5. And so with like almost, a fifth of what they asked for, they were able to do some amazing practical and special effects in this film. John Saxon is back. Now, I didn't see Heather Langenkamp in the credits here. I wonder if they purposely did that.
Possibly. There's Jacques Abor from her little cameo. To be a
surprise.
Yeah. It also it's quite interesting because it's really established for the Nightmare on Elm Street movies going forwards that after the second one, the films really had to have a female protagonist going forward to fight Freddy.
Yeah.
Jesse being the only male sort of person he goes up against in all the movies as a major protagonist against Freddy. And it maybe that's why it didn't work. I don't know, because there was.
Well, in the sixth film, Freddy's Dead, it started off with a male protagonist, right?
Yes.
And then it ended with the female. So.
Yeah. I'm not sure what I thought of Freddy's Dead. It was an interesting movie.
Yeah. Now, I can't tell you how many times I tried to do a Freddy house with plaster and newspapers.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, what are you doing?
Oh, I want to know, where was this in Patricia Arquette's career? This was one of her first.
Yeah, this is her first. She comes from a line of, her family is actors and actresses. Yeah. Rosanna.
That's such an 80s thing I'm seeing on that can of Diet Coke, NutraSweet,
yes.
Which was everywhere.
Everywhere. They actually, Winona Ryder was up for the role of Christian for this movie, but Chuck Russell thought she was too young for the role. And a year later, we see her in Beetlejuice.
Oh.
I think the casting was perfect, though, with Patricia Arquette.
Yeah. She's great. It's a shame she didn't come back for the sequel, but still great. It's just so strange to me as well sometimes, seeing kids of this era, and they haven't got the things kids nowadays got, things we take for granted. No one's got cell phones or computers that they could communicate on. There's none of this kind of stuff.
I think this is the first and maybe only Nightmare film that did not begin with an actual dream sequence.
Yeah.
As well.
I think it might be.
But it's so interesting. We see the dynamic already between the mother and daughter, the tension there.
Yeah, doesn't really like the mother. It appears that her relationship with her father's broken, the mother's relationship with father's broken down for some reason, be it she left him, he's died, or whatever. I don't think that's ever really made clear in case of Kristen, but she doesn't like her mother's dating.
Right. And the actress was having problems with her own teen daughter around the making of this film, so she was able to pull on her personal life experience for this role, this character.
Okay. This is the great thing about the Elm Street movies. You never know sometimes if they're asleep or awake, and it's one of the things I love about them, where you're never sure what state you're actually in.
Right.
Okay, guys, so what was the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie you all saw? To our Discord, this question. I suppose because the movies came out over so many years and with ages being different. I mean, the first Elm Street movie I actually saw was number 4.
Me too. That's the first one I saw in the theater. This one I saw on VHS.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I saw, like I said, I saw number 4 and then 5, and I saw 3 last. So I saw the kind of the trilogy out of order, which is a weird thing to do, I guess.
Yeah.
Sparky John, first one he saw was the original Brainwire. First saw the first one.
Nice.
Aaron saying Elm Street 2 stuck with him for the school bus scene.
Yes, I was terrified to ride a school bus after watching that one.
Oh. And again, this is a thing that became almost a a trope in so many horror movies, and I'd say a lot of the origins of it are from here. The creepy little girl on a tricycle.
Yes. That little girl, I believe she was a little at the same girl in The Hidden too, who played the daughter in The Hidden.
And here we go. This is what was Freddie's house and Nancy's house.
Yes.
Interesting thing was the movies themselves didn't particularly deal with the trial and the death of Freddie, but they actually picked that up as an episode of the Freddy's Nightmares TV show.
Oh, okay.
There's an episode of Freddy's Nightmares where she shows the sort of the collapsed trial that let Freddy basically go off.
I remember that episode. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, David's just posted a picture of Billy from the Saw movies on his tricycle.
And what was interesting about this is that, this is Mike. Oh, I can't remember the special effects guy's name, but he was tasked with creating a doll for her to use as she's running. You know, she's not going to be able to run with the real child actor. And he spent about 10 weeks on this doll, and he made it grotesque. It was horrific looking. And afterwards, the director was like, yeah, it's too hard. It's too scary. We can't use that. And so within an hour, they just grabbed some like skeleton doll and like dressed it up.
Wow.
But I think it works.
Yeah.
Because in a dream, you know, it works for the dream sequence.
But this is the start. Should we say at the start of the height of Freddy's mainstream media powers, if we call it that? Where he became this is where he really started getting cemented as a proper pop culture icon in the 80s. Whereby, there were even kids' Halloween costumes as Freddy Krueger, which is when you think about it, it's mind-boggling. You're dressing your children up
as a murderer,
as a child murderer.
Exactly. You went from cult indie to international status. And I think the filmmakers purposely decided to let that kind of die, him being a child murderer, and kind of let that storyline die down as they gave him more of a personality. Because in the first film, he had 9 lines, or he was only on film for 9 minutes or something. But
again, that's why this movie is so, oh God, it's just such nightmare. It's such great nightmarish stuff. The tap comes to life. But what I love about this movie in particular is it really starts to cement where Freddy's going properly. Because the first movie, he was just a boogeyman. There wasn't that much about him.
Right.
The second movie was God knows what, to be honest, in parts with him. It was very strange. But this is where the thing that really sort of skyrocketed Freddy happened, where he became, the humor was introduced with him.
Exactly. But it was humor with a purpose.
Yeah.
Right. It just wasn't humor for humor's sake. And here we have Morpheus, the young Morpheus himself.
That's right.
It's interesting that, this film came out in a time where there was a lot of, teen suicides, and parents and adults and authority figures are really struggling with teens. You had teen suicide, pregnancy, drugs. And the original script, one version of it was much darker, where all the teens would go to this one place to commit suicide. And then it turned out that Freddy was the connection. The studio was like, yeah, it's a little bit too dark. But
yeah, it's
right. Yeah, it's still
I think they got the level of darkness right with this, where it was, it is dark, but it's got the right amount of humor as well. But you find yourself laughing at things you shouldn't be laughing at as well with this, because Freddy's doing terrible, terrible things. Mad Matt says Morpheus still pushing those pills there. Sharon says, is he dishing out red or blue pills? Oh, and now we see Kincaid, who's one of my favorite characters.
Yes, Team Kincaid all day long.
Tom Fun says, number 3 is the perfect balance of darkness and fun.
Yes.
It really is. It really, really is.
Yep.
And Mr. Fritzl says that's what he says. He's Morpheus. He's recruiting first the soldiers for the Matrix. Now that would be deep, wouldn't it? That he actually was Morpheus in this film, recruiting kids to leave the dream. Oh, then you have dreaming. Mr. Fritzl, you blow my mind there. That's gone too deep. That you have this weird dream world within the Matrix.
The dream world, right? Now, this scene here is what really let me know that this is going to be a special film. When we see kind of Christian breaking down here, and we get a nice surprise in a couple of minutes.
It's quite interesting that a psychiatric hospital would have a defibrillator on hand. Oh.
I think that she did a great job. And I don't know if this was the scene, but in one scene, she had to do like 52 takes because she just couldn't remember her line. They were filming late at night. This is her first film. So this scene, this shoot was rough for her, but she did an amazing job in this role. And here we have the return of the ultimate 80s final girl protagonist, Nancy.
Yes.
When I saw this, I was like, game on. Nancy is back.
Yeah, because that was the thing. The first movie didn't make it clear if she survived or not.
Exactly. And the studio, I think they knew they had to go back to what worked. That's why they invited Wes Craven back to do the story and the script for this film. And also he wanted Nancy to come back as well. And he knew when he invited her back, he knew that, what was the fate of Nancy was going to be. But
so the question for the chat I've got is, what's the most obscure Freddy product you've seen? Most inappropriate or obscure Freddy product of all the many pop culture products you've seen. I saw Freddy. I think I saw Freddy bath soap once. I think I saw that. The screw cap of Freddy. Bubble bath. Not bubble bath, that's what we call it.
Oh man, Robert Englund should have negotiated in his contract to get a percentage of all the merchandising. He would have been a millionaire now, multi-millionaire. It's interesting. We see that on her bottle is Hypnosil. And that was the same pill in Freddy versus Jason, the same medication.
That's right. So the kids are taking to try to
suppress their dreams.
Kids are taking the Hypnosil as the experimental sleep suppressant. But as a side note, if anyone is thinking of developing an REM sleep suppressing drug, please don't. We here would like to discourage anyone wholeheartedly from doing that, as suppressing REM sleep long term will send you insane. So please don't. As fun as it may be.
Right.
That's right. Hannah Rose says, don't do Hypnosil, kids.
Another interesting thing about this film is that this was really the first film in the Freddy series, and then it was repeated thereafter, where you had a group of kids that were coming together versus just the one or two.
But that's why this movie feeds so beautifully into the next one, into the Dream Master, because each of the kids has their own special ability and power that we begin to discover.
Now, for all of you who joined the Explorers watch party last week, Philip, the actor, was also the bully, one of the bullies in that movie. We find him here.
And there we go. He's foreshadowing something there.
Yep.
Is Philip.
I swear, outside of Freddy, Kincaid has the best lines.
Oh, he does. He's a great character. It's just, Kincaid is probably one of the what I love about it is so many of the kids, the Dream Warriors, they just gains such great personalities. They're so sort of fleshed out nicely.
Yep. He almost didn't, that actor almost didn't make it to the audition. He was like running an hour late. It was raining. He didn't think he was going to get the part because the part called for a very muscular character. And when he got to the audition, he had to wait for an hour because they were running late. And when he got into the audition room, he proceeded to curse out Chuck Russell, just went off. And Chuck Russell was like, hired. I would not advise that though, if you're going in for an audition.
That's a good question from Lizardman. Does Kincaid's survival in this movie make one of the few horror movies where no African Americans die? Ooh.
Yes, and that's another reason why I love Kincaid.
Yeah.
I was, this movie also in Night of the Demons?
Yeah.
There was another character and also survived.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Kincaid is a legend. He's in 3 and 4, the best in the series.
Yes. Although in 4, you blink, you might miss him, right?
Yeah, unfortunately. But he's memorable anyway, even in that.
Of course.
I kind of like to think that Kristen's mum basically screwed her dad out of every penny when she divorced him, by the look of this, what looks to be almost a mansion they live in.
Now, do you think that her mother participated in the demise of Freddie? That she was actually one of the parents?
Question. I think she possibly did. I think she quite possibly was one of the people, or at least she knew about it. That would be certainly a big thing. That she was certainly involved in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here we see a very, very old IBM PC.
Wow. Let's see what's going on.
Then we have Hannah Rose saying, as a kid in the noughties, I would have killed to dress up as one of the Dream Warriors, but my neurotic uptight new age private school didn't like a lot of Halloween stuff, insisted our costumes be in theme with whatever myth we were studying at the time. Thankfully, I had more fun costumes on hand the moment 3 a.m. hit. But damn, did neurotic adults ruin it a lot. Kids don't think twice. It's us adults who overthink things. Wear that Freddy costume, kids.
What's so insidious about this whole concept of Nightmare on Elm Street is that you cannot not sleep. Like, yeah. She's trying so hard to stay awake.
Have you ever been that tired where you are fighting it like that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I also had like micro naps where you fall asleep and you don't even, it's just so quick.
Mm-hmm.
We got that bicycle again.
Creepy children's tricycles. And of course, it's quite worthwhile noting as well that, of course, Patricia doesn't come back for the sequel. They're always recast in the sequel.
Right. She was done. She was like, I'm so through with Chuck Russell and this whole production. And, it was his first film. They were making a $20 million movie on a $5 million budget. Things were tense on the set, to say the least. Oh, but interesting story about pig. They wanted a mechanical pig, but because of the budget, all they could do is get a real pig, roast it, let it rot for a week or so. And then a lucky crew member got to go underneath the pig and puppet it. And that was their special effects.
That must have the smell.
It smelled horrible.
Yeah,
the cinematographer was like, he could still smell it for weeks. Yeah. He was like, it was disgusting. But it worked though. It worked.
Yeah, it's a great effect.
Now this is one I think this is one of the best all-time effects in a horror film, period. The Freddy snake. Snake with the Freddy worm.
Yeah.
just amazing what they did. They
See
used
you can see a crucifix on the shelf there.
amazing. They used 3 different actual puppets, or so to speak, for this effect. The mechanical head, the one that regurgitates her, and then the one that's eating her.
We got Lizard Man saying that Universal recreated this scene for a Halloween Horror Night a few years ago for one of the horror houses.
Awesome. Oh man.
Very cool.
Very cool.
If you're a horror fan, I do recommend going to any of the Universal Halloween Horror Night seasons that they do at either of the parks. They are well worth going to.
They had to film that eating sequence in reverse. They had to film it backwards and then play it in reverse because the gums kept collapsing in on themselves as they were going forward.
Oh, I love this scene. I love this bit.
Oh,
and she
this
just
is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh. In the moment when he recognizes who it is, they meet each other.
I think actually, Nancy is probably one of the only adults, or at least the very first adult we ever see fighting Freddy.
Very true.
In a dream.
In the dream, yep.
I mean, she's got previous history with him, but you know, she's supposedly 25, 30 now. She's an adult. She's not a teen anymore.
Right.
Kristen's power.
Even Robert Englund himself said that he knew that Patricia Arquette would be a star.
Yeah.
Someday. She's just something about her. And apparently all the guys on the set in the movie were in love with her.
She seems quite a sweet.
Yeah.
Quite sweet.
Yeah. And wise, like an old soul as well.
There we go. They did get divorced. The parents, her parents were divorced. So you can imagine the mother did screw every penny out the father she could.
Yeah. Mad Matt 42, first acting role, and you're asked to climb into a giant slimy snake. We have our first.
Hi, Nancy.
And it's interesting here because you can see the kids are just exhausted. You know, they're fighting, but they're starting to get tired and worn out. And they're very suspicious and they don't trust adults because adults don't believe them. And so now here we have Nancy, a new adult, being brought into the group.
Who does believe them.
Right.
So here's a question for everyone in the chat. If you were a dream warrior, this is something someone asked earlier, what power would you want to have? Ask it to the chat and let's ask it to Carl. We'll read out some of your responses. Go on, Carla, what power would you want?
I would want, I've always wanted the ability to move things with my mind.
Okay.
Telekinesis. Always wanted that power. Telekinesis or the power to start fire.
My power, as I said in the chat earlier, for those who are reading, I'd want quite a niche power, the ability to immediately and permanently make dream demons disappear by clicking my fingers. That'd be really useful in these films. just a dream demon defeated. There we go.
Exactly.
Let's all go to sleep now, guys.
Or you can make yourself invisible, so that way Freddy can't see you.
Oh, I don't know about that, Freddy. I think Freddy would throw paint on you or something.
Yeah.
Lizard Man wants to turn into a dinosaur with a flamethrower in his mouth. That'd be interesting.
Interesting.
Tom Fun would like.
I was going to say, remember, Freddy can shapeshift.
That's the thing.
Freddy probably also turn into a dinosaur too.
Or a bigger dinosaur or something.
Yes.
Or a meteorite. Tom Thumb would like the ability to freeze and unfreeze time. Well, I think Freddy's almost shown that kind of ability in the movies.
Did anyone play Dungeons and Dragons back in the day?
I didn't really know, unfortunately.
Me
I wish I
neither.
did.
Me
I played a game.
too.
I played a game called Hero Quest, which was
Mhm.
similar kind of thing. I was maybe a little bit young for Dungeons and Dragons when it was in its prime in the UK.
That actor was a Dungeons and Dragons master. So when he auditioned for the role, he was like, yeah, this is me. I could do this. I think people, this is still pretty popular.
Yeah, there's a lot
Definitely.
of people who do play it. Oh, a few people saying they enjoyed it, but didn't like the cartoon. Sparky John saying he did, showing his age again. David says he plays it every now and again.
And this is another example of how these kids are working together to survive,
Yeah.
right? One is the watcher while the other one sleeps.
Oh.
I mean, think about how traumatic it has to be for Joey to be a world, class debater on this high school team to not speaking, to being mute.
Yeah. That doesn't look like a Thai restaurant at all. But hey, I'll buy it. I'll buy it.
Now, I always thought there was great chemistry between Nancy and Neil. And in one of the scripts, they actually had more of a romantic relationship where they, shared a kiss, and it was a lot more overt. But I'm glad they left that part out.
I would say from looking at it, the only issue I would have had if they had left the proper relationship in is there appears to be quite a significant age gap between them.
True.
I mean, we can appreciate she's a young medical doctor or whatever she is, psychiatrist or whatever, but he does appear to be a good 20 years older than her. But hey, love knows no boundaries, I guess. That's right.
I mean, Aunt Nancy also serves another purpose in this movie where she finally is the connector between the kids and the adults.
Yeah.
Because a lot of time in the horror films is a division. The adults aren't even in the movie most of the time, and they're definitely not listening to the kids. No. So
she's very much
she's
a bridge, isn't she,
yeah.
between the adults and the children.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Another favorite kill scene.
Oh, this scene is just amazing.
Amazing.
So it is. I think it's the fact it's stop motion animation makes it all the more creepy.
Exactly.
Lizard Man says, oh God, my friend has a good reason to be afraid of stop motion animation.
This just seems so painful.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh.
And apparently that actor, while filming this scene, they had to go to lunch. And so he's at lunch at the cafeteria with these spaghetti strap things coming out of his arms and his legs.
Oh no.
Now, question here. Do you guys in the chat think Kincaid was wrong for not waking him up? I mean, they knew what they were going through, right?
Yeah.
With the dreams and the nightmares. And I love Kincaid, but that always bothered me that he didn't wake him up.
Yeah, me too. Also, I thought they'd be locked in their rooms at night to stop them getting out and being stupid. I mean, the rooms are more like cells, so I'm kind of amazed the door was open.
Right. And the fact that he walks through a locked door,
Yeah,
just walk on that. Like, how did he even get
through that one.
through that? Right.
It's one of the only issues. As much as I do like this movie, it's one of the issues I do have with certain bits of it where the dream powers don't always correlate to the real world.
Right.
Because
Right.
you can appreciate in the dream world, yes, he sees he's being controlled like a puppet, but in reality, he's doing the injury to himself, and Freddy's just manipulating them into doing the injury to themselves. Not quite sure, but well, I don't know. We'll say a wizard did it. That's always the answer. Oh, Sharon, this scene's so scary, having the tendons pulled out your body and used to manipulate you. It's just, oh, it's awful, this scene. I mean, it's a great scene, but it's just, oh.
Yeah.
This is kind of like a funny thing with Freddy. He's laughing about doing this.
Just brutal.
Yeah.
And again, the adults, that one nurse is just not wanting to hear the kids.
No. Well, I think actually here, Kincaid is feeling, I think Kincaid's projecting his guilt away
Yes.
from blaming himself for what happened to him.
Right. And the fear that, any of them could be next,
Yeah.
This lady is just not getting it.
How did he walk through the door then? That was locked. The padlock
Right.
on it.
Exactly. Mm. I think we're going to see a little bit of Kincaid's audition that he.
So Aaron's saying, what is their connection to Elm Street? The parents? Well, I believe in the movies as they became further on, Freddy extended his reach beyond just the children of the descendants of Elm Street to all the children of
Elm Street.
No, not just Elm Street. Was it Springwood or Springfield?
Springwood.
Was it Springfield?
Springfield, Ohio.
Can someone in the chat confirm it's either Springfield or Springwood? I get them mixed up. But I believe Freddy extended his reach out to all the children of the town, which is why Springwood. Thank you, Tom. Which is why in Freddy's Dead there are basically no children in Springwood as a town.
Right. But what's interesting though is that he did need a connection though, because even in the fourth one, Christian was the connection to the Elm Street kids. So he's still tied by certain rules.
Yeah.
You could say in this film. Now that actress who plays that nurse has said that she's gotten a bad rep on the circuit because people see her as a villain. But she just really was like, I was just an adult doing my job who cared for the kids. She didn't really see herself as a villain in this film.
I let you prescribe this experimental drug to these kids. Yes.
Mm. And I wonder he put a lot on the line, his whole career on the line.
Yeah.
To do that. This shows both his love for the kids, but then also his growing respect and trust for Nancy.
Yeah. I mean, you see, this is quite strange. Kincaid, he's being locked in effectively a stereotypical asylum padded cell to cool down. I mean, it does certainly show an older fashioned way of dealing with these kind of issues with people. Unfortunately, you know, the world has moved on quite significantly from then as to how people with issues are treated. But right.
The scene.
Very famous scene.
Yes. Now, what movie, trivia question, what movie is playing on the TV before she changes the channel to the what, Don Cavetti show?
I'm not sure. Not sure. I just remember we're going to see the wonderful Zsa Zsa Gabor.
The movie was Critters.
Was it Critters? Was it?
Critters. Yep.
Ah. Oh, and we got the trope of the sleazy member of staff. Yeah.
And I guess this scene was a foreshadowing or a
Yeah.
setup for the later scene.
Yeah, well, it's established that she's had substance abuse problems in the past, this girl.
Yes. I think it's interesting. What I think was it the late 80s or it might have been the 90s, she started a movie called Bad Dreams,
Okay.
which was a little bit derivative of the Nightmare on Elm Street series. But
Again,
still was a good film.
Again, such an 80s thing, everyone's smoking in the workplace.
Yes.
Even while working. When I started, I entered the working world in sort of the mid to late 90s, and I just remember there were a few places I worked where you would go and you'd have people smoking at their desks or while doing their job, and it's maybe an alien thing now.
I know. I can't.
I'm going into a manager's office and you have the typical big ashtray full of burnt cigarettes on his desk.
Now this is an interesting way to try to keep yourself awake.
Yeah, burning it. Ooh. Look at the size of that remote control as well. You're a killer man with that.
Right? It's from the 50s, it looks like. I think at this point here, when she falls asleep.
Yeah.
Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Was this around the time where Zsa Zsa got in trouble for beating up a cop or something? She got pulled over by I seem to recall something in the 80s. She got pulled over by a cop and she attacked him or something. I think it's spoofed in a few movies. I remember
that. Robert English actually improvised. Yes, yep. I improvised this line. The original line was, is your big break on TV, that one. Yeah, and he did a couple of takes and then he did the improvised Welcome to Prime Time.
Oh, I love this. This moment is just so memorable. But again, within 10, 15 minutes of this movie, we've had 2 all-time amazing movie kills.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's just, it never gets old. It does not get old.
How could you explain that as suicide to somebody, though?
Right?
The logistics of it alone are quite incredible.
Right. Exactly. But I think, again, that goes to the denial of the adults.
Yeah. I mean, what are they trying to say? She did a running jump 5 feet into the air and headbutted the TV or something?
She did a Matrix type move into the TV.
Well, we had Lawrence Fishburne there, so yeah, maybe. Aaron saying, is this the first we learn this backstory to Freddy? This is the beginning of where we start to find out about the son of 100 maniacs origin of him. Prior to this, we only really knew the origin of Freddy as in he had killed children and the parents, but we didn't know of his birth origins.
Right. Now, what do you think about that? Because there's always a risk when you give a backstory to the villain or the boogeyman, right? It makes him less scary and more human. So what do you think about them adding this backstory to the mythos of Freddy Krueger?
I don't know really whether or not I like it. I think possibly it was good. I don't know. But I think everyone wants to know his childhood and where he came from. Right. But I think possibly in the future, as we'll see in future weeks, when we see his parentage, it becomes quite obvious with his parentage who it is, and it kind of takes it away a bit, I think, from some of the mystique of the character.
Well, Tom Fun in the chat said he thinks that oh no, Lizardman 888 said he thinks the backstory makes him less human, given what he's a product of.
Yeah, well, Mr. Fursel says he's still a dream demon. He may be a dream demon, but he doesn't actually become a dream demon. And he's as big a monster before he becomes a dream. He becomes a dream demon because he's a monster.
Exactly. I think it adds just enough backstory to the mystique to where you know that there's really no redeeming quality. There's nothing redeeming in him because of where he came from.
Yeah. He's almost one of those people you unfortunately want to say that you never should say. The world would have been better off without him being in it. Aaron's saying, who raised him? Well, in Elm Street 6, it's Alice Cooper.
Yes. He was a troubled child, to say the least.
No, Mr. Fezzo, he wouldn't be a stepdad. He'd be some kind of a foster or adoptive father to Freddy, because Amanda always remained a nun.
Right.
Aaron, he basically mistreated him and beat him.
Yeah. Hannah Rose Artist, yes, it's about time that Neil get it together.
Yeah.
And start really listening to these kids. You know, also that this film was the first film to use Freddy. In parts 1 and 2, they called him Fred Krueger. And this is when they start calling him Freddy Krueger.
I'll be honest, Freddy is more marketable as well.
Yes.
From the are you ready for Freddy, etc.
Exactly.
And around the time of these movies as well, there's actually a song that came out with Will Smith and Jazzy Jeff's Fresh Prince and Jazzy Jeff called Nightmare on My Street.
Oh,
and the interesting thing about that is it doesn't contain Robert Englund, and it doesn't actually have anything officially to do with the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. The official Nightmare on Elm Street single was, I think, called Are You Ready for Freddy? And it was the Fat Boys.
Yep. Oh my gosh, I remember that. Whoa, you're taking it way back. That's what I really like about these Elm Street soundtracks. They really capture what was going on at the time that the films came out.
They're pop culture horror movies. I mean, you can see the pop culture of the era by the kids' rooms in these movies. Even in Kincaid's movie, you've got a lot of the famous bodybuilders on the wall next to him, but you've got a Lamborghini Countach next to him as well in the photos, and you can see various pictures of groups and bands, and it just places and makes them believable, because it's what was popular in the era. What I like about this scene is it's almost magical.
Yes. Aaron, to answer your question, Heather Langenkamp, after the Nightmare films, she did a few more horror films, but she kind of retreated to raise her son. And then she did the documentary, I think it's called I Am Nancy, which is really great.
She did come back and kind of play an amalgam of herself and Nancy in Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
But outside of the Wes Craven Nightmare films. Nothing that's been as impactful as her role as Nancy.
Yeah.
And I love that she's really embraced that, because some actors try to run away from their horror iconic roles, but I think she's always really embraced that. And I think that had to do with the fact that her character was written to be strong, right? And it was a fully developed character.
Yeah. Actually, I had quite an 80s kind of story, bubblegum story about going to see Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I went to see it when it came out at the theatre in the UK. I was 16, and the movie was rated 18, so I wasn't supposed to go in and see it. And I went with a friend. We went on a double date with a couple of girls, and they wouldn't sell tickets to my friend or let him in. So I ended up going in with both the girls, one on each arm, into the theatre, and it was kind of. And he had to wait outside. It was great.
Did you do that on purpose, Andrew? Did you pay that ticket person to do that?
No.
Now, they had a choice here in this scene with the nurse. Yeah. Originally, they were going to have her body, but Freddy Krueger's head or face.
Oh, wow. That would
they had her made up to look like Freddy. And the film crew were like, Freddy with breast? No, it's not going to work for us. Oh,
Sparky. I guess Sparky's, yeah.
Yeah, nah.
I always wanted I think they call a Newton's Cradle. I always really wanted one of them. Well, there we go. This is where it becomes more like a fantasy movie for a few minutes.
Exactly. Now, one of the Dream Warrior powers early on, they even storyboarded it, was to have one of them turn into a transformer. So you would have like the Transformer bot versus Freddy.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm glad they scrapped that.
That would have been a bit like Moonwalker at some point.
Exactly.
I'm a little confused about Kristen's power here, because her dream power is pulling people into dreams, but she's also demonstrating she can be an acrobat.
Right. I wonder if that's not her dream power, pulling people into dreams. I wonder if that's just naturally her gift.
I don't
since
know.
She's had it as a child.
Yeah, Lizardman says Kincaid has the most practical power. Yes, he does. I mean,
yes,
I'd want to be in a dream with him if I had jars of like mayonnaise with the lid stuck on them and things like that. Someone with super strength would be useful.
what was so wrong about Freddie is that he could get into your subconscious and he know how to mess with you. Like, he's not just going to kill you, he's going to mess with you. He's going to find something.
I suppose in some ways, as they always say, Freddy versus Jason, as you know, there was the movie and they always compared the two. I think in some ways I'd rather be killed by Jason, because at least Jason killed you relatively quickly and outright.
Yes.
Freddy would torture you.
Mm-hmm. Physically and mentally.
Yeah. I mean, as we see here, and we find out throughout the film, Freddy doesn't actually kill Joey. He's just torturing him.
They actually filmed him standing upright, but then tilted the camera to make it look like he was laying down.
Yeah.
And being in that position for such a long time, at one point he actually passed out.
Wow.
During the scene, because it's that crucifix position. Freddy's here.
It's now like it's go time with Freddy.
Exactly. Boy, did they have fun with this set design.
Oh yeah. But again, this is what's great about these movies and movies of this era, and why they can't make movies like this anymore, because they'd want to not just, I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole cliched argument that CGI is bad and whatever, because sometimes it has its place, sometimes it doesn't. But it's just the whole aesthetic of it. I don't see how you could make this again with a modern movie.
Well, I mean, they tried with the 2000 and something.
It was 2010, the remake with Jackie Earle Haley, but it was, yeah, that wasn't a great movie at all.
No, because at this point, like you said, he doesn't kill Joey. So no, Freddy's playing games. Like, you know, he's keeping them hostage. He wants them to come to him. He wants them to come at him.
Because it's interesting, because what's happening at the moment is showing that Freddy can actually keep people in their dreams as long as he wants to.
Right.
Because it's not like at any point does he, you know, does he actually wake up of his own accord? You know, he's had enough sleep to wake up. He can keep them under as long as he wants.
You know, I just remember it's interesting that Chuck Russell did this film, because I think his first film that he was like a producer and he was a writer on was Dreamscape with Dennis Quaid. When that's another film involving dreams and going into people's dreams.
Hannah Rose says, can Freddy kill Dr. Sims, please? I've had enough of her.
Oh, Dr. Sims is just being Dr. Sims. You know.
Yeah.
But at this point, though, with the different types of deaths that are going on, you would think she would start to have questions.
Yeah. And again, such an 80s trope, cars reopened with keys. So that's interesting. Is it just he's been with the kids so long that was on a day out, or has he got some kind of other relationship with them? Because he's got, like, for lack of a better term, family photos with the kids in the center.
That would also hint at that the kids have been there for a longer time than what I've guessed. So
how long had, but also that photo is with the two kids who had died first.
Right.
Because this, I believe this sanatorium is also supposed to be effectively the birthplace of Freddy himself. Hence why Amanda Kruger's there.
Right.
I don't like bats. Oh, they're pigeons. I thought they were bats. Don't like pigeons either. Rats with wings, as people say.
This storyline, this thread with Amanda Kruger was so strong that, as we'll see in the fourth film, it comes back up again.
Yeah. I mean, this is building for the future movies.
Mhm.
I mean, it'd be interesting to know with the future movies that we're going to be following this, how much of it was planned from a grand plan point of view, or how much was made with each movie.
Right.
If there was a Marvel style overall plot written up front that they were going to follow the plan for.
Well, Wes Craven intended this to be the final Freddy movie.
Yeah.
Actually, but they scrapped that once they saw how much money it made, $44 million on a $5 million budget. They're like, no, we're going to be getting some sequels.
Does anyone else find nuns incredibly creepy? I know I do.
I do.
Yeah.
And I went to a Catholic school.
Wow.
For about a year, and then I begged my mom to transfer me to public school. I didn't care if I was going into the public school from Lean On Me. I just had to get out of that Catholic school.
They have the 18-inch long rulers to, and
oh my gosh. As you think about it, there is kind of a sub genre of nun horror films.
There is. They can be quite terrifying. Okay, so a question for everyone in the chat. We're going to go into the realms of fan fiction now. If you were to come up with your own backstory for Freddy in 2 or 3 lines, give him a new backstory. I want to see what you guys can come up with. Okay, Mr. Ezel, Jason's cousin.
Mm-hmm.
Sharon says nuns in horror movies are creepy. Hannah says maybe Freddy was possessed by a sleep paralysis demon.
If we're looking for relatives, I would love him to be related to Bilal from Basket Case. That whole family.
I like the idea that he's actually a Cenobite.
Ah.
Like a splinter Cenobite. Oh, ow. That looks like it hurts.
Sparky John asked about, do I know the whole Elm Street nursery rhyme? Well, I'm not going to sing it if that's the question, but I do know. I do know it was based on a real rhyme that my mom said that they used to say as a kid, 1, 2, buckle my shoe.
Yeah, I know that
and,
one.
Yeah, and that Heather Langenkamp's boyfriend kind of created the rhyme from that, created the melody for that.
I wish you'd copywritten it like that.
I know, right? Oh. Genius.
Mad Matt says Freddie worked at the mall for 20 years and finally had enough. No, that's my backstory. Calbot says his mom made him wear a striped Christmas sweater all the time and he just snapped.
Ooh, just missed.
Oh, there we go. David's posted a picture of Freddie as a Cenobite. Yeah, that would be awesome, actually.
Oh my gosh. But who would be the head Cenobite, Freddy or Pinhead?
Well, I like the idea that he could be a sort of a splinter Cenobite, so like a fallen one or one who went his own way, who kind of broke off from the main group.
Mm.
Oh, and the late, great, I'm not going to spoil it until he appears on screen, John Saxon.
Saxon.
And you can see he's basically a fallen cop here as well, because he's gone from being he was a detective in the first movie, wasn't he? And he's now supposed to be a rent-a-cop.
Mm-hmm. One drink away from a mall cop.
Yeah. I'm not sure if they ever mention her mother.
Hmm.
Sharon, that's so dark. I don't know if I want to read that out, to be honest.
I guess for the father, he just couldn't handle the mother's death, or
I don't know, maybe she went insane. Because I mean, at the end of the first movie, you basically see the mother being pulled through the front door of the house by Freddy. But I don't know whether or not she died, she left him.
Well, they were already divorced.
Yeah.
But I just feel he was such a strong presence in the first film.
Yeah.
For him to show up in this state is quite shocking.
Yeah.
Like what happened in the past 6 years, you know?
Yeah.
And this is the first time we finally kind of see Nancy break a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, definitely the 80s. He's got a pager.
Oh, yes. Only two people in the 80s had pagers were doctors and drug dealers.
Cops.
And cops. But it was doctors and drug dealers, a joke.
Yeah. I remember having I had a pager in the 90s just before I got a cell phone. There was a trend just before, because pagers became really cheap in the UK and everyone had them. And I remember how awful they were. I must have had 2 pages in about 2 years.
Uh-huh.
And it was usually my mother saying, "Call me."
Yeah, that only worked with the public payphone, right?
Yeah. That's the crazy thing as well. Can you imagine trying to explain a pager to a child of today? So it was a little device we had that you had to call and that would beep, and then you'd have to call a number to get a message on. You're like, why wouldn't you just pick your phone up and talk to them? We didn't have those phones.
And you would give people codes. You were like, if it's an emergency, like say 911, or if it's this, say 373, you know.
See, this is the issue I have here, is if there had been a relationship between her and the other doctor, is he's nearly the same age as her father in this. But then, you know. Yeah, Elizabeth's saying there were cell phones, but they weren't exactly convenient. No, my father had an 80s cell phone, and it was the size of it literally had a car battery attached to it.
Some of them were attached to the car, right?
Yeah, that's what his was. His was a cell phone with basically a car battery underneath it, and then he had it converted. They did a conversion where they fitted it to his car, and the quality, and it was so expensive, and the quality was awful. But it was cool to be able to say, "I'm calling you from the car."
Another horror movie trope: the holy water, stealing it from the church.
I still think the best holy water theft is the Frog Brothers.
Yes.
in Lost Boys. Hannah Rose says, if it makes anyone feel better, I know it does for me. In the novels, Freddy kills Dr. Sims. God, Hannah, you've really got it in for poor Dr. Sims, haven't you?
I know. I mean, Dr. Sims was really the perfect representation of kind of the authority figure for that time.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I wonder, did he ever go back and get his license?
I don't know, but I tell you, it's kind of a proper ultimatum ending to this film. It's kind of proper climax, isn't it? This movie has.
Yes. The buildup of the kind of the final showdown.
Yeah. You can tell his character actually really cares about the kids.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, all he knows is that this Nancy character comes in and all of a sudden his kids are like dropping like flies, you know?
You would think, though, out of taste and respect, they'd close the TV lounge until they had it painted until they'd repainted the wall.
Yeah. The junkyard scene. Now, was someone had mentioned that they saw Christine in this scene?
I don't know. Well, let's keep an eye out.
Yeah.
There is something about junkyards, though, at night that makes them just so spooky.
I don't think I've actually ever been to a junkyard.
Haven't you? Oh, I've been to a junkyard when I was a kid with my father, getting bits of my mother's car when we were young. But yeah, not for many years. Okay, here's a question for you, Carla, as our guest today. Sharon would like to know, how did you get involved with CREATORVC?
I got involved with CREATORVC. I had actually backed In Search of Darkness, the first film, and I saw that they were doing an advisor circle for In Search of Tomorrow. And I jumped on that immediately. Yeah. And so through the advisor circle, I just, volunteered my services wherever I could, helped out, and, ended up doing more projects and working more with the team. And that's how I came to be a part of CREATORVC.
Thank you. I mean, there's so many of us behind the scenes who do various bits and pieces, are all super fans. And as I say to some of the guys in the chat, sometimes one of the best and worst things is, and I think you'd agree with me on this, Carla, we get to see stuff earlier sometimes than it goes public. And we're super fans. We want to go, oh my God, we've just interviewed, or we've just seen a photo or this is happening. And it's like, no, can't talk about it until
I know
it can be announced to the public. So awesome.
My thing is like, listen, adulting is hard. And so for me to be able to do these watch parties, to be a part of this community, to talk about these films that we all grew up with, it's just been such a blessing. It's so much fun.
Yeah. People don't like adulting. I think the best quote about adulting ever is from an old episode of Doctor Who, which is, there's no point in being grown up if you can't be childish sometimes.
Well said. And Freddie wastes no time.
Oh, he's like, it's go time. But this is what he wanted. He wants
Mhm.
to feast on killing everyone.
Exactly. And he wants to separate them too.
Yeah. It's the thing. It's, you can say one thing about Freddy, he enjoys his job.
And I love that she knows, like, wait, I think I've been here before. I think
Yeah.
this is familiar.
But again, we're getting a great another great Freddy moment of kind of the humor starting to be interjected into the movies now.
Yeah. Another great line.
Yeah.
Question for the chat. What's your favorite line?
Yeah.
It could be Freddy or another character in the film.
And what's your, oh,
Mm-mm-mm. I know everyone goes for the Welcome to Prime Time, but I like the I Don't Believe in Fairy Tales kid,
yeah.
that one. And then I like Kincaid's Let's Kick Freddy's All Over Dreamland.
Something he starts doing with this movie that he definitely picks from the others is he starts to dress up. In the previous two
Mhm.
movies, he's always just wearing the traditional hat and sweater with the glove, but we just saw him
Yeah.
in a tux there. We do see him in different costumes
Mhm.
throughout the movies now as they go on.
Yeah, he's really getting into character, you know.
Yeah, it's like he's enjoying his role.
Exactly.
Taron and Freddy.
You know, the impact of these films, you know, this actress has said that she's received letters from fans saying that they stopped drugs or they decided not to do drugs because of
Yeah,
her character in this movie.
that's awesome.
Yes. See, Nancy Reagan, you didn't need Dare, you just needed Freddie.
Yeah, or Just Say No in the UK with Grange Hill.
I love her hair. How long
Yeah.
did that take?
How long did it take to do a hair like that?
Well, she actually stuck Freddie.
Yeah.
And now he pulls out the big guns.
But this is really showing the stuff with Freddy. He's not just being the boogeyman now.
Right.
This is being the evil genie demon type thing with the offering. Now he knows your weakness. He knows what you want. Oh, the little mouths on her arm. Just,
Originally, they were going to have her head explode, but that's effect. It didn't look good at all. So,
yeah.
and it would have taken away, I think, too, from how she died. Hannah Rose is hilarious. She said Freddy Krueger should have been the face of Dare campaign. Jason could have been the face of teen pregnancy prevention.
I always felt that he got sold a little short in this scene. I would have liked to have seen him do a bit more stuff.
Yeah,
As the Wizard Master, he was ultimately a little bit on the lame side.
exactly. He ain't no Harry Potter. Let's just put it that
No,
way.
no. And of course, Harry Potter being the main character in Troll.
I wonder if this was longer and they kind of just edited it down or something because it does seem a shame. I mean, magical powers are pretty cool.
It would have been cool to see him having like a wizard battle with Freddy or something.
Yeah.
Oh,
Although I do think Freddie was a little bit surprised
yeah,
by him fighting back in this scene.
yeah. It's like Freddy doesn't know he's really got any proper powers beyond walking.
Right. Kind of that look like, what?
Yeah.
Now, was Freddie really getting hurt, or was he just messing with this kid?
I don't know. I think the stuff with Freddy is a lot of it's down to belief and confidence, isn't it?
Yeah.
About that's where his weakness comes in. But did he really get killed by Freddy because his belief in himself wasn't strong enough?
Mm.
Because it's kind of established in the movies that if you don't fear Freddy, he loses his power over you, because fear is what fuels him.
Right. But he's gotten so much stronger by this third film that even that in itself might not be enough.
Yeah. So everyone, what's your favorite kill Freddy does in this whole movie?
Yeah.
For the chat.
What's your favorite kill?
That's a good question.
Mm.
But I just love this. It's just it is like a horror maze, and he's just messing with them.
Yep.
It's every little bit. I mean, it invokes so many dream sort of, I don't want to say stereotypes, but dream things that people are aware of or have seen. You know, floating doors in the middle of nowhere that open somewhere, flying, all these kind of things.
Boy, did they have a doozy with this set, with the boiler room. The fire department was there threatening to shut them down. It was smoky, hard to breathe, hot, extremely hot. It's not a comfortable set at all.
No. Sparky John says the TV death is just iconic. It is great.
Yeah.
I do wonder if this was a real scrapyard or if they built this just for the movie. I don't know myself. It'd be interesting to see. But this also infers that her father had a lot more to do in Freddy's death than he should have done. At the time, he would have been a cop, don't forget.
Right.
So this is a cop being, I mean, is that why he's fallen down, taken to drinking? Because he's a cop who was complicit effectively in the murder of a man. Mm-hmm. All right, he was a known child molester and murderer and all those evil things, but he still was a cop who was at least an accessory to murder, if not one of the people committing it.
Right, and involved in the cover-up.
Yep.
But I also wonder too, now thinking about it, if Freddy goes after the kids in the dreams, is there some way he affects the subconscious or the emotional, stability of the adults? Like, he doesn't go after them in the dream, but there's still some lingering something there with them. Yeah. Because John Saxon's character in the fourth movie, Christian's mom is messed up, Nancy's mom is messed up.
Everyone is. I'm sure, to be honest, I'll hold my hands up. I've never been an accessory to murder, honestly. So I can't say how that would impact you in life. I can imagine it's something that you don't just brush off and forget about. Now we see him getting to the boiler room, which is always Freddy's sort of inner sanctum.
His home court,
Yeah.
home court advantage.
With the exception of Joey now, that's all the Dream Warriors that are left.
Yeah.
And there is Joey. Oh, that noise, the nails on the pipe,
Oh,
the blades. There's such great effects work there with the tongue just wriggling round.
right.
Ah, thank you, Sparky John. The car Freddy's bones are in is the same car from the first movie.
Oh,
That's a nice link back to the original.
yeah. Of course, that was an all blue screen there. The fiery pit. Still looks good though.
Oh yeah, definitely. I love the fact that Freddy can always pretty much match people's abilities in the dreams if they're, you know, even if, well, again, let's, without spoiling too much about the next one of these we do, even if he's up against a kung fu master, he will become a kung fu master in the dream.
Right.
Oh.
Even still, he has King K by the neck.
Yeah. Mad Matt saying, this is the boy from Home Alone. What's up with how frightening boilers are? Well, boiler rooms are frightening. They are just dark, dirty, smelly, noisy places. Yeah, Tom's absolutely right there. Whoever did the lighting for this needs some extra. It feels hot and sweaty just looking at the place.
Yes, and suffocating.
Yeah. Oh. Oh. Oh, and this is like Freddy's like, my attention's being drawn elsewhere.
Exactly. Now, also to go back to your point, Andrew, about Freddy controlling the dream, because at this point they can't get out. I mean, they got Joey, everyone's there. They could just wake up. Christian could just wake up, but something's going on to where they can't get out. And I don't know if it's because they sedated Christian, and so she doesn't have the strength to wake herself up quite yet.
But the others potentially would. They're only hypnotized to sleep.
Right.
But that's the thing. But what does make you wonder is they're saying they need to do a burial, but they aren't actually burying him on consecrated ground. They just brought some holy water and they're digging a hole in the junkyard. It's not actually sacred ground.
Right.
Would they have done better putting his bones in the boot of the truck and burying him in a church graveyard in a proper? I love this though, with this kind of the junkyard coming to life.
Yeah. Gonna have a nice little homage to Ray Harryhausen.
Oh, it is. It's a wonderful to Clash of the Titans and all those movies. Mr. Phil's saying half expected Herbie to make a cameo here. Oh, that'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? Herbie coming to life and trying to run them over. This is the bit that makes you wonder about what the nature of Freddy's powers actually are now, because they're most certainly awake, but he can possess his bones in the real world.
Right? Because it's
where
yeah. because they're not asleep. There's no way that Neil
No,
and the
they're not.
father, they're not asleep, but
Yeah.
so he's able to come.
Oh. Stop motion skeleton battle, says Hannah. Sharon says part of the nightmare is when you're in a dream and you know your dream, but you can't wake up and trying desperately to wake up. That's true.
Yes. Or if you ever had a dream where you wake up, you think you're awake, but you're still in a dream.
Oh, yes. Inception. Oh, here we are. Miss Phil's on another one.
Yes, the mirror scene.
Yes, this is a great scene.
This is one of the most difficult scenes technically to do, the production, because they were using real mirror and they had to time it perfectly.
Here's Joey. Joey's about to reveal his power.
Yes.
Oh, pulling people through mirrors. This is all proper traditional nightmare fuel kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Kind of fun house nightmares.
Yeah.
Because at this point, you're thinking, wow, he just wiped 3 of them out.
And as Lizard Man says, he just loves how creative the Elm Street movies get as they go along, and they do. They just are so.
Yes.
Freddy can basically do anything in this world, and that's what's great about it. Is any way of killing people. It's not just some walking up and stabbing people. There's always playing with people and manipulation, and that's where these movies really start to pick up here. I mean, the second movie is just bizarre, with Freddy possessing someone in the real world, and some very outlandish deaths. But outlandish, I like the movies with the outlandish deaths in the dreams, but I don't like outlandish deaths in the real world, if that makes sense.
Right. So you're not a Final Destination fan, I take it?
No. One of my friends actually is very good at mathematics, and in the second Nightmare on Elm Street film, there's a scene where a load of the kids die because someone turns the pool heater up too much. And in a matter of minutes, the pool starts boiling and people are burnt. Well, a friend of mine who's quite good at mathematics actually worked out how much energy and how hot that pool would have to get and how long it would actually take to influence that much water to do that to people. And he just said it's so outlandish in the real world that it just would be impossible.
Right. Oh, no.
But like I say, in the dream world, I have no problem with it. You can tell this was a personal kill for Freddy.
Yes, very personal. And the way he just tosses her.
Yeah.
I mean, he put his shoulder into that, like he put his whole body into that.
Oh yeah, he was making sure she was dead. And also he didn't try and kill her in a comedic or funny way. He deliberately was making sure she was stabbed.
I remember being so upset with Nancy.
Yeah.
Oh, but I mean, but it makes sense, moving forward to expand the characters, expand the storyline a little bit. You have to have that closure.
Yeah.
Until the 7th New Nightmare.
And this is another 80s kind of effect I love. I love the kind of animated light effects like we're seeing here on Freddy from the 80s, where they're just hand painted on. They look absolutely so good. We see a crucifix.
He said that people were crying on set when she did this scene. It was so moving.
Hannah says, we were all upset when Nancy died, but she died in the most badass way possible by freeing the souls and taking Freddy down with her. What a legend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one of the scenes in the script that was never filmed or if it was cut, was, you know, Christians moving to New York City,
Oh
the
no.
city that never sleeps.
Oh
And
no.
she tells Neil that, you know, she dreams of Nancy and that Nancy is watching over her. So like Nancy is like a sleep guardian now.
I could see Nancy becoming if he's a dream demon, is she a dream angel or something along those lines? But as Liz Man says, I'm going to dream you into a beautiful dream. That is a lovely sentiment.
Yeah.
That's a nice way to remember somebody. And here we go. A bit more about the nun.
Another reveal.
Yeah. Sister Mary Helena.
So because this was supposed to be the final nightmare, and Nancy was set up to be a dream angel, the light coming on in this house was supposed to be Nancy turning on the light.
Okay.
But they switched it to make it seem that Freddie
right
turning on the light. Because that's her little dream doll there.
I do love I love the music as well. They film the whole, those few notes you hear. Well, oh, now we get some Dokken. Great way to end the movie. Well, that was Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, which is just tremendous. And thank you, Carla, for joining us today. It's just been so much fun talking about this.
It was so much fun. Thank you for having me. Anytime I can talk about Nightmare, it's just so much fun.
And because I've basically not really kept it secret throughout the watch party, our next 2 watch parties for In Search of Darkness, we are continuing this story. We will, a week on Sunday, so 2 weeks today, we will be doing Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. And then 2 weeks after that, we will be continuing the saga with The Dream Child, Nightmare on Elm Street 5. We're going to continue this story and see what happens with the remains of the Dream Warriors going forwards.
Yes.
Have you got any more wonderful trivia to finish us off with, Carla, about this movie? I know you had massive chunks of it for us.
The only thing is that, you know, the famous song by Dokken. Is it Dokken or Dokken?
Dokken.
Dokken. So they were given the script to write the song for this film. And it was notable as being the first film ever put on a VHS tape. First video that was added to VHS. Yes. And so, and to this day, like, they still perform the song. He's like, but he can't hit the high notes. They're like, I don't know how we hit the high notes back in the day. But no, this is a perfect song. And I think moving forward in the films, we'll also get some really good music too, some really good soundtracks.
Yes. Well, you might have noticed, anyone who's watching our pre-roll today, I slipped in some songs from from number 4 into our pre-roll on YouTube. Did anyone in the chat notice that today? A couple of great tracks. We had Nightmare by Tuesday Night was one of our songs, and then we also played the fantastic Don't Be Afraid of Your Dreams by Go West, which is an unreleased track. Great song. Yes. I'm so looking forward. I love 3 and I love 4. I don't know which one I prefer the most.
I know Alice is
Alice is badass.
Yeah,
she is just so badass, and it's even got a couple of training montages in number 4. This is great, but 4 is so much fun as well. I really can't wait. I hope everyone in the chat is really looking forward to when we cover Nightmare on Elm Street 4 next. That's going to be just insane.
Yes.
Hannah Rose is saying Alice is a worthy successor to Nancy. Tom Fun says 3 has the edge, but 4 is amazing. Yeah, exactly. It's like a Rocky 3, Rocky 4 type situation. Number 4 is maybe a little more bubblegum, but it's a lot of fun. Going to be so much fun. And just to keep everyone informed going forwards with the watch party very shortly, we will be announcing the full schedule for the season of Popcorn, or the summer of Popcorn. The schedule is locked in. There's some great titles there, so I think we're all going to have an amazing time going forwards. Do you have anything to finish on, Carla, for the community today?
No, just, thanks for joining us. See you for Nightmare on Elm Street 4. I see you in the chat. And yeah, and watch your dreams.
That's right. That's right. Sleep with the light on. So
Exactly.
everyone, take care, and we will see you next week in sci-fi for In Search of Tomorrow, where we will be watching War Games, and the week after we'll be back in horror with Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. So everyone, take care. Don't have any nightmares. Good night.
Good night.